The Armalite AR-15, or in this case the Spike's Tactical AR-15, also nicknamed Star, is a 4-star AR that's only available from clearing Stage 3-6 for the first time, giving the player ST AR-15 at level 40 and with 3 dummy links. The Armalite AR-15 shares much of the same story as the M16, as it was developed into the M16 after its adoption, so I'll try to keep this brief as possible. Essentially, after World War II, the US Army wanted a single automatic rifle to replace the M1 Garand, M1/M2 carbines, bar, grease gun, and Tommy gun. They experimented with select fire Garands, which eventually evolved into the M14, which proved to be disappointing, but that's for later in the story, and the M2 replaced the SMG in US service, but the .30 carbine round was underpowered, leading the US Army to look for a higher caliber cartridge. This higher caliber cartridge culminated in the 7.62 by 51mm NATO, which the US Army absolutely loved for whatever reason, going against the advice of an intermediate round suggested by weapons designers and the British. Because the US Army was so gung-ho about using this .30 caliber cartridge, they chose Springfield Armory's T44E4/5, which was just a Garand with a detachable magazine and automatic fire capability, designating it as the M14, to replace the Garand instead of FN's FAL or Armalite's AR-10. US Army was immediately dumpstered in Vietnam when they used their M14s against the AK-47 and AKM. M14 was uncontrollable in full auto, heavy, had a wood stock that gets warped by the humid and rainy weather of Vietnam, and soldiers couldn't carry enough magazines to compete with the AK platform. Conversely, the M2 carbine had a high rate of fire, which could be controlled, but was underpowered compared to the AK. This led the US Army to realize, hey, maybe the M14 ain't so great. So in 1957, General Willard G. Wyman sent a request to develop a .223 caliber select fire rifle that weighed 2.7 kilos when loaded with a 20-round magazine, could penetrate an M1 helmet at 460 meters, and retain a velocity in excess of the speed of sound. Armalite, in response, made a scaled-down AR-10, the AR-15. In 1958, 10 AR-15s with 125-round mags were sent for testing by the U.S. Continental Army Command, CONARC. The test found that 5 to 7-man teams had the same firepower as an 11-man team with M14s, as well as the AR-15 teams being able to carry 3 times as much ammo, 649 rounds versus 220, not to mention being more reliable. However, General Maxwell Taylor, who is so goddamn in love with the M14 and the .30 caliber cartridge, made the dumb decision of vetoing the AR-15, which led Armalite to sell its rights to the AR-10 and AR-15 to Colt in 1959. After they acquired the AR platforms, Colt designed them to make them easier to mass produce, most notably moving the charging handle from under the carry handle, like the G36 or FAMAS, to the rear of the receiver, where it is today. Then rebranded the rifle to the Colt Armalite AR-15 Model 01. The first sales of the rifle were to Malaya. Eventually, someone in the US military had sense and decided to order the AR-15 for use, that being General Curtis LeMay, who is key to this story. Testing also continued on the AR-15 and showed that it was easier to fire than the M14, as well as having 43% of shooters achieving expert at marksmanship testing, while only 22% of M14 users scored as such. So, double. LeMay was eventually promoted from Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force to Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force and ordered more AR-15s in 1961, like someone sensible would do. This caused Maxwell Taylor, who for whatever reason was now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to tattletale to JFK about how there shouldn't be 2 types of rifles, as it would be problematic. And the request for the 80,000 AR-15s was rejected. Later that year, William Godel, a senior at ARPA, later DARPA, sent 10 AR-15s to South Vietnam, where they were praised by the ARVN soldiers that used them. With all these conflicting sources and views, the Army still opposed the AR-15 for Well, at the time, whatever reason, despite it being obviously much better than the M14. This caused the Secretary of Defense, basically the guy under the president and above the Joint Chief of Staff, McNamara, to get the Secretary of Army, Cyrus Vance, to test the M14, AR-15, and AK-47. The U.S. Army reported that the M14 was suitable for service, but this made Vance suspicious, and he had Army Inspector Generals investigate the testing methods that were used, and found that the testers were very biased towards the M14. By 1963, McNamara ordered a halt to the M14 production, and after some minor modifications, had the AR-15 become the new service rifle to the U.S. military, being designated the M16, and later M16A1, A2, A3, A4, the M4A1, so on and so forth. The Armalite AR-15 is a gas-operated, rotating bolt, stoner-expanding gas assault rifle, which fires the .223 Remington, or 5.56 by 45mm NATO, cartridge from a 10, 20, 30, 50, or 100 round magazine at a rate of fire of 700 to 800 rounds per minute, out to a range of 457 meters. Inner base character art drawn by Lynn Plus. I know, surprise, it isn't low light. Star wears a very short pleated white dress, a dark and light gray coat with a pink liner, a gray gas mask around her neck, a hair clip that looks like an iron cross, a long black thin tie, mismatched length socks, the one on her right going to below her knee and the one on her left going all the way up and has SPR on it, black running shoes, a normal glove on her right hand and a fingerless glove on her left, a knife in its sheath on her left thigh, extra magazines under her arms, and a black band around her upper right thigh. The AR-15 she holds is a Spike's Tactical 10-year anniversary rifle from 2011. On the original gun, the barrel is a Lothar Walther 14.5-inch fluted barrel, a Magpul CTR buttstock, a MOE pistol grip, and angled foregrip, Magpul iron sights, battle arms development ambidextrous safety selector, Spike's Tactical SAR version 2, and a specialty-made bolt carrier group. The differences in Star's art is that she has what looks to be a longer barrel, most likely a 16 to 17.5 inch, a Magpul PMag 30 Gen 3 window magazine, and some sort of long-range scope and suppressor. Inner voice lines voiced by Kato Emiri, who also voices Kagami Hiragi in Lucky Star, Blair in Soul Eater, Mei Rin in Black Butler, Mayoi Hajikuji in Monogatari, Kyubi in Madoka Magica, Aura Bellafiore in Overlord, Riko Saikawa in Dragon Maid, Becky Blackbell in Spy Family, Abby, Sirokarte, Haluel, and Maluel in Grand Blue, Tracer in the Japanese dub of Overwatch, Kade Isami in Blue Archive, and Bailu in Honkai Star Rail. Star constantly wants to prove herself to the commander.
コルト AR-15 よ。正式に貴殿の部隊に加わります。私の活躍をしっかりと目に焼き付けてください。チャンスが私に巡ってきた。これが私がずっと望んでた力か。指揮官、今日の作戦指示まだいただいてません。私はいつでも行けますよ。ただいま戻りました。指揮官、次の指示を。指揮官、私なら彼女たちを超えられるでしょうか。指揮官、これは夢ですか。どうか私をあなたのそばに置いてください。夢から覚めたくないです。いつになったら私の出番が来るのかしら。指揮官、どこを見てるの？トレードマークではないですよね。来い。私は負けませんから。指揮官、今回の勝利は優秀と言えるのだろうか。最近は接近戦の訓練を強化した。新たな成果が出るかもしれないから期待しててくれ、指揮官。指揮官、どんな姿になってもあなたに認めてほしいだけだ。
Like some ARs, Star's main role is increasing her rate of fire for a decent period of time. Her tiles buff SMGs, buffing their evasion by 12% and rate of fire by 10%. She's best positioned on tiles 4 or 5, but can be put on tiles 1, 2, 7, or 8 if you don't mind losing tiles. At level 10, Star's first skill, Assault Focus T, has Star increase her own rate of fire by 45% for 15 seconds. This skill has a 4-second ICD and 16-second NCD. With no equipment, her rate of fire is increased to 112. When fully linked, enhanced, and at level 100, base Star has 105 HP per link for a total of 525, consumes 60 ammo and rations, deals 48 damage, has 50 evasion, 50 accuracy, 77 rate of fire, 10 move speed, a 20% crit rate, and deals 150% damage on a crit. Base Star is able to equip telescopic sights, hollow sights, red dot sights, night vision, suppressors, and high velocity ammo, as she has 2 accessory slots and 1 ammo slot. The recommended equipment for Base Star is a 5-star scope, 5-star hollow sight, and her special equipment, the 300 Blackout high velocity ammo, which can be obtained from 3-4 Night, either from the Manticore or S ranking the map. This gives her plus 33 damage, plus 14 accuracy, plus 48% crit rate, but minus 14 rate of fire. This brings her stats to 81 damage, 63 rate of fire, 63 accuracy, and 68% crit rate. Her skill now raises her rate of fire to 91. To fully mod Star, she will need 3,200 memory fragments and 120 dummy cores, as well as needing to be at 100 affection for all mod levels, level 100 for mod 1, 110 for mod 2, and 115 for mod 3. This requires roughly 17.5 days, or 2 weeks and 3.5 days, of grinding the advanced sim for memfrags, though this time can be shorter if there is a raid up. Her rarity goes to 5 stars when modded. In her mod art, also drawn by Lin Plus, Star now wears a dark gray dress with a pointed bottom that has a strange white part with 3 squares that have crosses on them and a pink band at the top, a weird metal neck guard around her neck, a ripped black jacket with red interior, ribbons fluttering in the wind behind her, and a Defy Team logo on her left shoulder. Above what looks to be the rank of Corporal, dark pink gloves, mismatched length socks, the right being a thigh-high with a 3x3 pattern of stars on it, haha, and the other being all the way up and having SPBR on it. A holster of some sort on her right thigh, and magazine carriers under her arms. She holds 2 rifles. Starting with the large one, it consists of a Magpul CTR collapsible stock, Mega Arms upper and lower, Magpul PMag 30 for 300 blackout, Magpul AFG2, angled foregrip, Shadow Valley Weapons SV Comp compensator for 300 blackout, Magpul M-Bus iron sights, Mega Arms 15-inch wedge lock, Keymod handguard, and a Leopold Mark 6 1-6 times scope. The smaller one consists of an X-Products ROC, Magpul M-Bus 2 iron sights, Spikes Tactical Pipe Hitters SBR, Aimpoint Micro T-2, Magpul XTM rail panels, Troy Industries foregrip, Magpul XTM hand stop, and a Spikes Tactical MRS suppressor. When fully modded, Star's tiles now give a 15% evasion buff in addition to the 10% rate of fire buff. She now has 108 HP per link for a total of 540, deals 50 damage, has 52 evasion, 55 accuracy, and 78 rate of fire. Her S1 now increases her rate of fire by 50%. Her S1 now brings her rate of fire to 117 without equipment. At level 10, Star's second skill, Crime and Punishment, when Assault Focus T is active, Star raises her secondary weapon and attacks simultaneously, with the secondary weapon dealing 10% of the primary damage. If the target is marked with Seal of the Avenger, Soda, the secondary weapon deals 20% of the primary damage instead. Without equips, crits, or Soda, her secondary does 5 damage. With crits, it does 8 damage, with Soda but no crits, it does 10 damage, and with crits and Soda, it does 15 damage. The spec that Star gets from reaching Mod 3 is the Lightweight Rail System, which, when at max calibration and enhancement, gives plus 30% crit rate, plus 15 damage, and plus 10 accuracy. The recommended equipment for modded Star is her special equipment set, that being the Lightweight Rail System, 300 Blackout High Velocity Ammo, and the SBR Specialized Wooden Handguard, which can be obtained from the Gray Zone. This gives her plus 50 damage, minus 5 rate of fire, plus 10 accuracy, plus 55% crit rate, and plus 30% crit damage. This brings her stats to 100 damage, 73 rate of fire, 65 accuracy, 75% crit rate, and 170% crit damage. Her S1 now raises her rate of fire to 110. Her S2 now does 10 damage without crits or Soda, 17 damage with crits, 20 damage with Soda, and 34 damage with crits and Soda. When Star has all 3 of her specs equipped, she gets the 16 Lab customized AR-15 buff. This buff makes Star's secondary weapon sure hit, so that is guaranteed hitting, and ignores armor. For every unit, whether it be enemy or friendly, increases her damage by 6%, stacking up to 10 times, so 60%, and lasting until the end of battle. This would make her S2 do, assuming it boosts her overall damage, not just her S2, 16 damage without crits or Soda, 27 damage with crits, 32 damage with Soda, and 54 damage with crits and Soda. Star, much like her AR team sisters, is one of the better ARs in the game. You not only get her for free with levels and dummy links, but her stats are decent enough and her DPS is good due to her high rate of fire, which is further boosted by her skill, a good tile layout, and she can equip 2 accessories much like Sop. Her S1 lasts a good while, she gets a spec from a night stage, and she has a mod. This mod further increases her DPS both through upgrading her stats, upgrading her S1, and through her S2. Her S2 literally has her akimbo AR-15s while firing downrange, with this S2 being further buffed when she has all 3 of her specs equipped, making her second AR-15 sure hit, ignore armor, and have better damage. Not to mention, all 3 specs have pretty good buffs. And as always, there are drawbacks. Going down the list, getting the 300 Blackout ammo is always a pain to grind. Her tile buffs are meh, only giving a 10% rate of fire and 12% evasion buff, or the other way around. Her rate of fire will eventually hit a ceiling that ARs like M4, who buff their own damage, aren't affected by. Her wooden SBR spec is locked behind the Gray Zone, and her second AR-15 that gets pulled out during her S2 does a pitiful amount of damage, being 10% of her normal damage or 20% if the enemy has Seal of the Avenger applied to them. So if Star has all of her specs, she would be able to do a whole 10 damage to them, or a bit higher at 16 with the added bonus of having all specs equipped. Regardless, Star's a decent AR, but nothing meta-defining. I'd probably get her to Mod 3 anyways just for her specs, but I wouldn't talk someone down from just getting her to Mod 2 and leaving her there. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter for updates, and please check out my other Arknights and Azure Lane videos as well.